So good morning. This is Soul School Network for Sunday, November the 24th. My name is Susan, and I'll be your facilitator today. And welcome to everybody and to those who are listening to the recording. We hope to have you join us someday so we can get to know you. And the other facilitators for Soul School Network are Greg, who's here with us today, Michael, Kavita, Koryanka, and as you all know, we welcome your feedback, your ideas for speakers, although I believe we have a great lineup for 2025 coming together, many of whom are associated with Winn and Soul Seed. So anyhow, thank you for being here. I know in this online world that there's 1,000 places you could be, and you've chosen to be here with us, and we very much appreciate that. We do like to start with a meditation. Sometimes we've been busy before we get here, and we can sort of come into a grounding and, join together and be prepared for a beautiful message today from my beloved friend, Winn Mallard, who's here with us. Thank you, Winn. And so I will introduce Winn in a few minutes, but I would like to turn it over to Koryanka for the meditation so that she can lead that for us, and then we'll come back together. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, yes, gladly. I will invite you to please close your eyes, to take a deep breath that is very relaxing. We're going to do this relaxing grounding meditation together. We'll start scanning our bodies for any tension there might be, starting at the head. We'll do this together. We'll just observe without making any meaning out of it. Scan the crown of your head, the back of your head, your face and neck, your shoulders, one arm and then the other, all the way down to your hands. Now your back, from the neck all the way down to the final bone of the spine. You can focus your attention now on your chest and your abdomen. Are there any sensations so far? Any muscle tension? Just observe it for now. Continue with your right leg and foot and your left leg and foot. Wherever you found tension, let it go gently by visualizing that it is a white cloud that slides down your body all the way to your feet, leaving your body through the soles of the feet. Perhaps there will be many clouds of tension leaving your body. That's great. You are letting them go. You can feel good about it. Once tension is out of your body, it will be gone and transformed into life-giving energy. Let's take a deep, relaxing breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Let it feel good. You can stretch your body and make sure you are comfortable wherever you are. You are a beloved child of the earth, deeply connected to her. Notice how your feet are planted on the ground, either physically or energetically at all times. Feeling the earth with the soles of your feet. Feel how your energy grows and extends itself from the soles of your feet towards Mother Earth. You are growing energetic roots that go into the moist, rich soil under your feet, uniting with the Mother, receiving nourishment and love from her. The more your roots extend and go deeper and deeper into the earth, the more you feel deeply grounded and held in love by Mother Earth. Stay present in this moment. Remain grounded and present in this moment. Grounded and present. Grounded and present. You can gently go back to your breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. One more time. Now you can slowly open your eyes when it feels good to you. You can move your body slowly as you can come back at your own pace. And here we are, ready for this wonderful interview.
Koryanka, thank you very much for your loving energy and that lovely meditation. It's just so perfect for all of us. And now let's move into hearing from Winn this morning. And I am so grateful, Winn, for your willingness to be here with us. Winn is going to speak about a mystical community, a soul seed experience. And Winnie, as she often calls herself, is the mama of Soul Seed, a school of spiritual ecology and esoteric development, as well as a cafe restaurant and event space. It's located in Pisac, Peru. The path she walks is Gnosis, a Latin American based mystical movement founded by Samael Aun Weor. And so we look forward to your message, Winn. Winn and I have been friends for I'm not sure how long, but probably more than 10 years at least now. And so such a lovely person, beautiful inside and out. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Winn, to share about your community. You are the visionary and the foundation. Carry on. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Koryanka. It's an honor to be here and share with each one of you today. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I normally, when I share in Soul Seed or other places, it's pretty interactive, my style. So we'll see how I do with talking and then having question and answer series. But please, at any time, If anyone has any thoughts or questions or ideas to add to what I'm saying, please feel free to, I don't know, raise your hand. Is it, there's a little hand thing or something? Just let us know, and happy for all to participate as feels good. Okay. I was thinking sort of to start with, I don't want to make this too much about me, but I was thinking to start with a little bit about my journey, because it's pretty important as to what led regarding community and living in community and being in community. It seems like that's kind of the focus for today, especially, and really in so many ways, I feel like it's the focus for these times that we're in. I feel like community is, for me in my life right now, it's just where I'm putting all my love, energy, money, time, wisdom to try and work and build community. And part of it, I think, is my path. I don't know if y'all are familiar with gene keys and human design and these newer know thyself tools that have come about. And gene keys was really interesting because it said, like, I'm here to build community. And I was like, oh, okay. But I started at a very young age being involved in community. My parents were very active community members. My father taught at a university, and he taught theology. And my mother did Christian education. And so she worked at the university as well. So, and they were part of a big Methodist church. So I grew up in a very intense nucleus of the university community and the church community. Now, when I got to be about 15, the church community started feeling a little stifling for me in certain ways. And I kind of took leave of that. I did end up going to the university myself and studied cultural anthropology. And still yet sort of left that community eventually. But being so grateful, and still when I go back to Atlanta, Georgia, which is where I'm from, my father transitioned 10 years ago or so, but my mom is still surrounded by this community, and it's holding her, and she's 89 and has constant visitors to her place from these two communities. And so it brought an amazing knowledge for me as to how, especially on the material realm, how important community can be just for living, just for helping each other out, just for the daily work. Something happens, there's an emergency in the family, you have food coming in for weeks from the community, some great tragedy. So I grew up knowing that level. I would say mostly on the material realm, because truly I didn't feel, I felt a beautiful level of spirituality from my father, the theologian, from his work, though he was much more sort of an intellectual, spiritual person, and also a beautiful heart, my mom too. And so the main thing I think they taught me regarding community was a sense of generosity. Like there's a place where generosity was the foundation of those two communities. Really thoughtfulness at looking out for each other and really being generous with each other. So I had that, and then I went off on my own, like, duh, enough of that. And I found the next community I found myself in, sort of official community, so to speak, was a place called Earth Song, which it was a place for sort of eco-psychology, deep ecology, goddess work. Started my first women's circle, and it was a beautiful place in Athens, Georgia. A woman had bought 150 acres, and she wanted to create this eco-spiritual retreat center and asked me to step in and help her develop it. And so I had a beautiful experience sort of coming into the eco-spiritual realm there. and helping create community with her there. It ran its course as to she was an older woman and a little bit set in her ways. And so there was a place where she wanted community, but at the same time was afraid of losing control, really. And that's a big issue. And I'll talk about that when it comes to me and Soul Seed too. And so I moved on to place called Earth Haven Eco Village, the next community I joined, which is outside Black Mountain, North Carolina, which is founded in permaculture and sustainable living, sustainable design. And so yet again, sort of the eco-spiritual permaculture, learning to live in balance with our beautiful Pachamama. I called all the people that live there eco nerds because super smart, bright people that put all their focus into learning how to build their own houses, grow their own food, create community founded on this level. So still very materialistic in lots of ways, each one, the spiritual aspect there, but still very focused on the material realm, earth and all that is. Of course, there's lots that isn't material that has to do with earth, but for the most part, those communities focused on sort of the material realms. Not a lot of work or discussion and talking about the higher realms at all. And so after I left Earth Haven, I moved into a big communal house called Hanger Hall in Asheville, North Carolina. And Howard Hanger started it. There was 16 of us living together, and I became part of his church that was a creation spirituality church, which is basically mystical Christianity that a man named Matthew Fox sort of brought into the present moment of this humanity, as in that he brought the Christian mystics back into our awareness. Hildegard of Bingen, Julian of Norwich, Meister Eckhart, and the creation spirituality was based upon a lot of these mystical teachings, and really the main form of connection to divinity that was celebrated was creativity. So the church services would have people from the community share creative gifts, be it a song, a dance, a poem, a rap. I would do raps, whatever it was. So I lived in this amazing, beautiful old mansion with Howard and a bunch of people. And then I was a part of that community where the mystical came in more, but not so much. We still were in the creation. We still were creation. Spirituality was about creating here in the third dimension as much as anywhere. And then through that, I discovered a place called Sancta Sophia Seminary that I joined for a little while, which was an esoteric Christian seminary. And really, for the first time, started really getting to understand what does esoteric mean, what it is to really start acknowledging the other worlds beyond the third dimension realm, what it is to really start working at a broader degree. And after a while, I stepped into working with ayahuasca. It just kind of came my way, and found a beautiful facilitator, a couple actually, and started working with them for a number of years, and then decided to come to Peru to work with their teacher. And so that brought me to Peru. And the ayahuasca work was good. I no longer work with it very much at all. It kind of had its place. I would say it was a portal into taking me to the next level of really understanding, like I had the concepts of these other dimensions, these other worlds, these other realms. And ayahuasca was a boost for me to really have a sense of what that feels like, what it looks like, what it is on a level of being able to just kind of sink into the energy of things and at a different degree. And so it just kind of shifted my awareness a little bit more and sort of embodied a bit more what all is out there. And after working with that, so then I came to Peru, and I was with the ayahuasquera, the amazing teacher. She's a really high vibe person that's here in Peru, Peruvian woman. And I decided to travel. I'd been with her and for a while, and I decided to travel a little bit. I figured I had about enough money for like 3 months in Peru. I'd saved up, you know. Oh, and I had started a divine feminine mystery school, I called it, in Asheville before I came. And so that was kind of in its developmental stages when I decided to come to Peru. So I came to Peru and I got somebody to watch my house for 3 months. And yeah, and I landed in this little village called Ollantaytambo here in the Sacred Valley, and didn't leave for 2.5 years. And kind of hooked up with a local man, Roberto, aka Wow, and we opened a little hostel, and I did that for 7 years. And that was in December of 2009 that I came. So basically 2010 that I landed here in Peru and have been here since. And the main thing regarding community that has been, well, once I sunk in, because the man I married there was from Ollantaytambo, generations, from this small village. And so what I sunk into was, wow, community. What, like, okay, these people know how to do community, like where all the other places, I mean, my parents, where I was born into, to a degree, because of course, church community has been, there's that vibration, that groove that has been a part of Western culture for a long time outside of the small village stuff. But as we have shifted in Western culture, materialistic culture, to more nuclear family, less tribe, less community, then, I realized like, oh, wow, all these communities I've been a part of are more like making the effort to come back to tribe, to come back to understanding what it is to be in that level of community. And all of a sudden I was plopped down into this tribe, this Ollantaytambo world, and founded in a mystical culture. So from my, and just to say, I mean, this is all my perspective. You will talk to other foreigners that have been here for a long time, and they'll have a different perspective from me. So I just want to say, I mean, I know that's a given, but you see, giving you my story leading up, kind of how my perspective has been formed. And so what I saw was, especially coming from the United States, a very, very materialistic culture, I think probably the most on the planet, that I had just, and moving in these steps towards mystical awareness, mystical knowledge, I guess, to a degree, that I could have a sense more of where the mystical was in this sweet little Peruvian village of these people, and just in their daily walk. It wasn't anything anybody talked about. You didn't have some, the language was just very natural. Just in that the Apus, the mountain spirits, are just a part of the community. You don't leave them out of the community. Pachamama, Mother Earth, is a part of the community. The animals, the children, the elders of the community are very much included in everything that happens. Even Greg was talking about being at the disco, the Ollantaytambo disco, and on a good disco night, I mean, it'll be like, young'uns to elders, like whatever the main cultural celebrations within the village, always includes everyone, and everyone's always included. Whereas in the States, you often find the kids, children over here, the elders over here, you know, lots of separation. So this whole new level of unity in that realm. And also the most wonderful aspect was this inclusiveness of the other dimensions and the other realms. And what they have, each village in Peru, as far as I know, has a guardian angel, basically, that the whole town adores and works with and acknowledges and is a huge part of the community. So the guardian angel for Ollantaytambo is the Señor de Chocaquilca, and one of the few that doesn't have any sort of human form to the imagery used to represent. He's represented by a cross with the Patacancha poncho draped on it, which Patacancha is the valley that goes up next to Ollantaytambo, and the more indigenous communities up the valley. One of the villages is called Patacancha, but that area of indigenous people is like the Patacancha area. And every community has their own sort of style of poncho. And so Señor de Chocaquilca is said to have been a being, an entity, a spirit, an angel that saved a campesino. These are the more indigenous people that are up in the mountains. They're called campesinos. And he had fallen into the river, the big Vilcanota River that runs below Ollantaytambo. And he had fallen in and was getting pulled into a whirlpool and was getting pulled down. And this guardian angel, Señor de Chocaquilca, pulled him out of the river and saved him. And that's the idea and they celebrate Señor de Chocaquilca every year with a really big whole town festival. Everyone comes together and they work on it all year long. It entails a great amount of sacrifice in that these people don't have a lot of material money or material wealth, you would say, but they will use almost all of it to celebrate Señor de Chocaquilca. And not only their material wealth, but also their time. It's throughout the whole year. There's events and work days, and the communities coming together to work towards this big festival. And really, like, you just see this level of community glue, the yumminess that pulls, because they'll fight, you know, of course, they've all been living together for generations. They know everything about each other. They have their differences. There will be fights. Sometimes that's what the disco is for, you know, like late night, a little cerveza to make it easy. And interestingly enough, particularly in Quechua culture, it seems. I read a book right before I came to Peru, actually, that was about Quechua culture. And in the book, she thought that it was a big part of their way of connecting. An intimate relationship had as much to do with friction and fighting as it did love and lovemaking. And I've seen that. They have an interesting, it's easy to fight and then figure it out. You know, they live together, they're going to live together, they're in this tiny village, you know. But definitely I learned to fight more in Ollantaytambo. It was kind of put in my face as part of the work. And it's exhausting for me, and I don't want that. Like, I'm like, okay, that's was interesting to explore, but just a level that they really will, and they have nicknames for each other, and the nicknames will be around some of the character flaws of the person. So they poke at it. So it's an interesting form of shadow work, is what I'm trying to say, that I had not really seen near as prevalent or conscious in the other communities I've been in. Was this level of, they even have festival days where they have insult contests. So they'll have people get up and insult each other, and it's a contest who can bring the best insults. And it's reflecting, like if I'm doing it with somebody else, what I'm kind of doing is reflecting to that person through my insults their character flaws, their psychological defects or aggregates. That is very apparent when we live in community. Things that we won't see within ourselves, because what does Jung say? We have 7 times 7 layers of unconscious, infraconscious, subconscious, so very hard for us to see our own stuff. So one of the most potent and important aspects that I have discovered about community, and it was a little bit in the church university community, but not too much, because we're all, we got to be nice to each other, and and in these other communities, a little bit there, but not like this, where it was just like, but they all love each other and they're gonna live together and it's okay, so I was angry a lot in Ollantaytambo because, well, I was sad and angry. I was an outlander on a pretty intense degree. I had the hostel, so I had guests coming in, but mostly I was hanging out with, aside from like Susan and Michael, occasionally I was mostly hanging out with local Ollantino people who are a mixture of Quechua and Old Spanish, but definitely more Quechua. So just a completely different culture than anything I had grown up in. And my partner of choice, Mr. Roberto, was very devilish at poking me and triggering, knowing where to poke to get my triggers. And one of the main things I saw was how these belief structures, I called it a belief structure autopsy after I'd been in it for a while, because I realized, wow, I had been brought up with this set of beliefs as to what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. All these very, you see my parents. So this very foundational Christian church. I was born in 1965, Atlanta, Georgia, all of that filled in my belief structure. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, there's a totally different belief structure here. And what makes mine right and better? Like, that's where I had to go with it. And so a lot of it was just like, like I was just like, and guess what? I have had a lot of anger in my life since I probably came into this realm. Like, it definitely was one of my main character defects. I would say mine are pride and anger are two of mine. And I'll get into that more perhaps. And so my nickname in Ollantaytambo was Igado, which is the word for liver, because anger affects our liver, or a weak liver affects our anger. Whatever, they're connected and they're related. And this is just built into the fabric of this culture and these people, this acknowledgement that has just recently come out through more holistic work, in Western world. But so I was called Igado as one of my nicknames. And I had to like really sink into that, and be like, oh yeah, wow, and I had hepatitis when I was 10 years old. I had this liver disease of hepatitis when I was 10 that they had no clue where it came from. So I came in with this as part of my work in this realm. And here it is for me, just getting completely brought out to the surface and acknowledged by the people of this community in this amazing way, and most particularly my ex partner, husband. And after a while, I was like, okay, I'm learning so much here, and it's incredible and amazing, and I'm exhausted. I am exhausted. My body was just shot. I started developing some health issues, and I had to go. And so grateful for the time. Amazing work. Not for everybody, that's for sure. Like I said, I did cultural anthropology in university as well. So really interested and excited about other cultures, always, my whole life. So yeah, so then I land after a while, taking a good long break and rest. I land in Pisac, and I'd always had this mystery school, wanting a mystery school for me for years. And like I said, I'd created one in Asheville, but I didn't go back to it. I ended up, staying in Peru. So what came on the radar was, well, what's next? After resting a good while, I rested for years in between projects. But eventually found a beautiful path here that Susan mentioned called Gnosis. That is a South American teacher, Samael Onweor, who was from Colombia and moved to Mexico and lived most of his life in Mexico. But basically, he transformed Latin America in a very intense way. And very few people have heard about him because they keep it on the down low, because he's a mystical teacher in the Catholic Church. Is wary of that and actually looks on it as black magic or the devil or evil stuff. So even when I joined a group of Gnosis, a Gnosis community, in the next community, I guess, was actually the Gnosis community I joined in Cusco. And I was the only foreigner. Everybody else was Peruvian, mostly from Cusco. They were like, keep it on the down low. Don't tell your neighbors. Tell them you're going to a meditation. You have a meditation group, So they're still keeping it kind of on the quiet side, though it's gaining in notoriety and acceptance. There's a school I go to, online school I go to in New York that's outstanding, that I've done a lot of my learning from. One of the instructors there was a direct student of this teacher. He died in 77. So his books, he wrote like 70 plus books and thousands of lectures, and established lumicials, or the temples, all over Latin America in his 27 years of work. So then I was really wanting to, I had it. And what Gnosis does is completely teach one how to have direct connection with divinity. That's what Gnosis means. It means no beliefs. It doesn't come, you do the work, you do the practices to have direct connect with divinity, be it devas, angels, archangels, masters, whoever it is, the other entities, beings, intelligences that are in the other dimensions, along with, most importantly, really, the divinity we have within ourselves. Here in Peru, it's called Chispa Divina, the divine spark. Consciousness, beingness, innermost, lots of words. But the idea being that we all have the seed of divinity within us. And the point of coming to be human on planet Earth is to grow that seed into bigger and bigger and bigger, so that we are more and more walking as divinity. And so that's the whole premise of Gnosis, really. It's for us to get in touch with our own guru, our own divine teacher that we have inside of us, and that to be working with that to connect in with the other levels of divinity. And so you can see why the Catholic Church didn't really like this, right? And so I stepped into that, and that has been what has been teaching me and feeding me and guiding me for the past 6 years or so. And so then, of course, when I went, like, I have this whole new awareness of community. I have this whole new, from Ollantaytambo, I have this whole new awareness of mysticism from living here in Peru, a much more mystical culture than where I came from. And then I have Gnosis, this amazing mystical path that's just practical path for direct connection. And so then that just kind of funneled in together to create Soul Seed, which is the School of Ecological Spirituality and Esoteric Development. We've changed the name, so I get a little. And it's been, I started a couple years ago just with a little office, and it's really gained slowly in a nice process. And really, 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 I constantly say to people, because it's found a nice place in the world. It's receiving really beautiful acknowledgement from people who come through and people who live here in Pisac as just something that feels very special and attracting beautiful people, I'm grateful to say. And I constantly say to people who are wanting to compliment me, I'm like, look, it's not me, it's the path. And I really, really, really deeply, earnestly know that if I hadn't had this path I've walked, but also as much as anything, hadn't found Gnosis as my spiritual path in my work, Soulseed wouldn't be what it is at all. And I also very much constantly point to, I call them my higher ups. I'm like, I've got my higher ups. It's the higher, any major decisions, any things that ideas that are coming through, anything, because at first, when I first started Soulseed, I thought, okay, this is what it's going to look like. And I got slapped down pretty quick, like, no, you can have some nice, container. Like, it's my job to create the container and feed the baby. And the angels, the beings that are my higher ups, will take care of the rest of it. And it was rough for me. The control thing that I mentioned earlier, the woman with Earth Song, the like I got where she was coming from at that moment, like, okay, yeah, it's hard to let go of control, the idea that we think we know what it's supposed to be, whatever project, whatever thing we're creating, but especially a mystical community. Like, it has to be, you have to give a lot of room for God, basically, like for the angels. And so it's been a very humbling experience for me, which part of my work in Ollantaytambo I saw was like, wow, a very important aspect of mystical culture is humility. And really has been a very intense process for me personally, is working on the pride as opposed to humility, and then also the anger, as I mentioned before, as opposed to patience. And with Soulseed, it's a constant work for me to step into humility and patience and allow it to be what it's supposed to be. So I rambled a lot more than I thought I was going to. I'm looking at the time and I'm like, wow, okay, I can talk. I was like thinking, so yeah, I don't know, does this feel like a good time? And we can
Well, you could
share.
tell us a little more. Like, we don't have to, worry about the time if you want to tell us a little bit more about Soulseed. It's up to you, Winn.
Okay, well, I mean, does anyone at this point have any thoughts or questions or comments or anything that you would want to? Yeah, Greg.
Just a quick question. Basically, if you could, as you're talking about Soulseed and what you're creating in Peru, maybe talk about the hunger, the thirst in the world for this kind of community. Are you seeing that that right now is a great time for this?
Thanks. Great question, Greg. Yeah, I feel like that's really as much the reason for Soulseed's success is because of the timing and the place. Pisac is kind of I call it like the little Alexandria of our times, because it's this crossroads of people from all over the world, and everyone is interested really in exploring mystical culture, mystical community. And I think also exactly what you said, the horrors that we're facing as a humanity right now in this history, in this time in our history, people are realizing that community is where it's at. And people are realizing that mystical community, especially, because we cannot solve the problems that we have created with the same perspective, the same awareness that created the problems. So we have to shift our perspective. We have to change our awareness to solve our problems. And I think more and more people are realizing that, because we just are in this hamster wheel, loop-de-loop of ridiculousness, you know? And so the more we expand our perspective, which is the mystical work, it's expanding our perspective to include all of what is really here instead of the tiny little piece of the material world that is very small compared to all that's here. And so more and more people are realizing how important that is, that that's really the key. And therefore, what's the schooling we have in the world right now? It's materialistic school. It only focuses on the intellectual mind, the five senses. So what are we missing in the world? We're missing mystery schools. We're missing the teachings of how to connect in to these other worlds and our own God self within, and our inner faculties, how to develop our inner faculties. So we're not relying on our conditioned mind and our five senses, because they're very limited, and especially the conditioned mind is very corrupted. So we have to move beyond that to solve our problems. So yeah, I think it's very pertinent that this is the time for the return of the mystical community, the mystery school. So thanks. Yeah, Silica, you had your hand.
Good morning, Winn.
Good morning.
You've been a part of many communities, and I have my own spiritual community. And the problem that I have struggled with the most are challenging personalities. What I mean by that is a person will come in and they will disrupt the harmony of the group, or they'll cause distractions, or they'll cause a divide among the members, or they might be argumentative or pull you off your purpose. So I was wondering if you encountered any challenging personalities in any of these communities, and do you have any examples of how the group members or the leaders responded to such individuals to keep the group healthy and on purpose?
Thank you. That's great. Great question. Yeah, actually today at 2 o'clock, I have a meeting with two of my team members who are having a little bit of a challenging relationship thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's good timing too. One of the main things of Gnosis in particular is self-observation. So one of our fundamental aspects of Soul Seed is that your inner world creates your outer world. And so you always have to bring back any sort of friction or issue that's going on in your life and your world. You have to bring it back to yourself and learn what aspect of you is creating that. Now, saying that as part of just the foundation of who we are, we also are just starting to work with a beautiful governance system called sociocracy.
Okay.
And sociocracy kind of, I feel like it came out of permaculture, but I'm not positive about that. But it feels like the way a healthy ecosystem works, more than like how humans have been setting up organizations, be it a company, a town, a school, whatever. It's a way to govern with circles within circles. And the facilitation techniques are incredible because it really keeps people from needing, because I used to be at Earth Haven Eco Village, we had consent decision making, and it was horrible because what you're talking about, people would come in and they just needed attention they didn't get as a child, or pride was wounded for some reason and they just needed to disrupt things or whatever was going on. And in the consent decision-making process, that person could hold things up for so long. But with sociocracy, which now Earth Haven has shifted from consent decision-making to sociocracy, sociocracy has a brilliant guidelines as to where people can't take over like that. And that any kind of conflict or friction is held within the circle where the people are at, be it the big circle or whatever. So there's beautiful allowances. So I would highly recommend you check out sociocracy. Even if you don't adopt the system per se, it's got a lot of wisdom as to how to work with community in that way. I totally get you and feel you that that can be one of the most challenging things.
Yes.
And so far with Soul Seed, I haven't had to deal with too much of it because we
Good.
haven't sunk in, well, we haven't sunk in that deep into, like, we're not living together, you
Mm.
know? So we haven't sunk into that depth. But little pieces, you know, that come up. And so today, you know, the people that I need to mediate, the first thing I'll do is ask them to look at themselves, and do some self-observation around what aspect of their psychology is creating this situation, and ask them to really meditate on that, because that's how we grow from these, we call it the psychological gymnasium. Yeah. And it is like, but it's the work. It's why community is so important. Besides supporting each other to expand our perspective, know thyself. Know thyself, and thou shalt know the gods and its universe and its gods and goddesses, right? So community, like I was saying in Oyente Tambo, the shadow work. People have to be ready for that. Really, they really do. If we want to really develop our mystical selves, we can't avoid that work. We have to do our shadow work. Does that help? Does that answer your question?
Yes, that was a very generous answer.
Okay.
I have a lot to work with. So Shiocracy, I'll be looking that up after the webinar. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thanks for your great question. Yeah. Anyone else?
Michael,
Thoughts?
go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Winn, could you possibly touch upon the initiatives that you have planned for the jungle and Manu?
Yeah. So Soul Seed right now, we have a little center in Pisac, just in downtown, right near the plaza. And when I talk about Pisac, it's maybe 2,000 people. We're a small little village, but there's a large number of foreigners that live here, probably maybe 100, 150. So compared to how the time, but the foundation is these beautiful Peruvian mountain people, these Quechua mountain people, which is a very important aspect of all that happens here, of course. And so our expansion, our vision is to grow, number one, online, to get more of the offerings and classes. So we have a classroom space where we have classes all throughout the week, all day, and then events at night that are mostly like sound healings and concerts and open mic night and storytelling night and things like this. So we do events and we do classes in the physical place, and we're starting to record the classes to start offering online. And really, real quick before I go to the jungle, one of the main things, because the sense of we need mystery schools in the world, mystical community more than anything else in the world right now, is we want ourselves to be a blueprint for these kind of places to pop up other places. And we're getting that. People are coming through Soul Seed and they're like, I want to go home to Holland and create this. I want to go home to the United States and create this, you know. So we're getting where people are getting how cool and important creating these spaces around the world. So that's kind of the main vision, is to really create like a model, a blueprint to help people create these wherever they are. Part of our work too, of course, is working with healing. And I work with plant dieta medicine, it's called. It's a tradition from the jungle here in Peru, where you work with a shaman or a curandero, who's a person who has been very deeply connected with the apus, the mountain spirits, the Pachamama, Mother Earth, the plants, all different kinds of plants, the trees, the bushes, the herbs, he's like an herbal healer times 100, basically. And so I've gotten some property for Soul Seed down in Manu, which is just over the mountains, about 5 hours from here. that is a very, very special place. It's the largest ecosphere reserve or preserve in Peru, maybe South America even. It's like 4 million acres of reserve, and it's got the highest biodiversity of fauna and flora of supposedly anywhere in the world for a reserve. Goes from high mountain to low Madre de Dios, the Mother of God River. It's the mouth of the Amazon. So working on a project there to create basically not just a healing center, but like doing different kinds of healing. I've been working with this plant dieta work where you just eat very bland food, no salt, no sugar, no fat, just like boiled rice, tomato, and cucumber, basically, and work with different plants. And I just got back from that, and it's very powerful work for me. But also be open to other healing styles always, but also kind of create the next chamber. Like with a mystery school, you traditionally have the pre-antechamber, then you have first chamber, then you have second chamber. And one of the things that they talk about here is that Machu Picchu, which we've all heard about, has another mountain that's very important there called, wow, Henning, hi, called Winu Picchu. And Winu Picchu is the first chamber, Machu Picchu, the second chamber, or Winu Picchu, the antechamber, Machu Picchu, the first chamber. So a very important aspect of mystery school is that you have entry level, and then you have like the more advanced, or the faculty, you could say. And part of what the faculty does is keep doing their own work together through the psychological gymnasium and all that, while attending to mentoring, teaching, helping the Winu Picchu more entry level. So really seeing the jungle more as like a little more advanced chamber place too, where we have like faculty retreats, but also a place where we can step into teaching healing on a deeper level, on a more mystical level. And what does it really look like to do mystical healing? And that's really to get at the root in our vital body, in our astral body, in our mental body. You know, we have all these bodies. We have 7 bodies, and allopathic medicine just focuses on the physical body, right? So we've been really because we've been materialistic culture, so it's how it works. So yeah, so create another little soul seed thing down in the rainforest of Manu. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Michael. Yeah, any other thoughts, questions?
When I would just like to ask you about the reality is you're a devoted Gnosis student. And, you know, Michael and I are very familiar with Gnosticism too. And yet when I go to your Facebook page, I see a very full week with all sorts of different topics and paths, spiritual teachings from all different areas. And would it be your goal then, like in terms of your online mystery school, would this be about Gnosticism, or would it be about, you know, a whole variety? What is your thinking there?
Such a great question. Yeah, I mean, this was where I got slapped down, the control thing, you know, my first the first soul seed was going to be pure Gnosis, you know, all Gnosis, and quickly got the message that, yeah, I need to, especially the pre-chamber, the antechamber of what it is here in Pisac. I need to let go of my sense of that everything has to be Gnosis. And, you know, really for my own path too, like you know, Samael, Master Samael is my fave right now. And I really, really love the path because it's changed my life for the better more than any other thing I've ever stepped into. So I really see it working for me. But also one of the main tenets of Gnosis is everybody's free will. You never try to force it upon anybody. You know, everybody's got to come to their own place, and there are many paths. And one of the beautiful aspects of Samael, they call him a master of synthesis, because he actually just says, every religion, every spiritual, mystical tradition, every enlightened civilization was founded in the same thing, which he calls the science of consciousness. So it's really the science that divinity works with to create the universe. The science we know is from the human mind, right? The materialistic science. So there's a divine science, of course, and it's based in laws and numbers, and there's beautiful tools in every tradition to understand the science. And his sense is that all the masters, Jesus, Moses, Krishna, Buddha, Muhammad, the Inca, the Aztec Maya, Egypt, China, all were founded in the science of consciousness. You just boil, there's differences because of the culture, the time, the whatever. But basically it's all the same foundation, which I love that thought, because then you just can't have any division. You can have your own style. So I just see that all of these things that are coming, I mean, there's a few things that I won't have at Soulseed, but not too many. One of them is polyamory. That just kind of goes against a foundation of what Gnosis is about, and that's a whole long thought. But a few things here and there that I'm just like, no, sorry, that's not, we can't do that here. But for the most part, I see what everybody's bringing is where they're at, and just really got the message. I have to meet everybody, and of course any of us do, when we're teaching, when we're working with public community, we got to meet each other where we're at. And then but I do have a place where I'm planning to create a first chamber teaching session on video. I've gone through the Gnosis first chamber teaching 3 times so far, totaling probably 125 classes in the 3 different times I've done the first chamber. I'm a slow student. I need a lot of and so I want to do a first chamber video series at least for the people that join the team and are working at Soulseed, and really, really part of the core membership. So that's in the plans. But yeah, I think the online presence will be kind of like what it is right now, where for the most part, people bringing what they bring, and then if we create these other hubs, Soulseed style things in other parts of the world, like maybe, we're potentially collaborating with Soul School Network. Then there's an online umbrella that is just like where, okay, so these beautiful people in Holland that want to start a Soulseed thing there, they are bringing beautiful teachers and facilitators sharing over there, and they can be part of the online. So then the online just becomes this big, beautiful online community, mystical community, and all kinds of different classes and stuff. So yeah, great question. Thanks, Sue.
Thank you, Winn. I'd far from call you a slow student. You sound like a brilliant student to me, given your path and all you've had the courage, really, I would say. I don't think it's easy to do all these community experiences that you've done. It takes courage, and obviously it's an evolutionary process. And I think it's made you, I'm thinking life experience has brought you to be such a beautiful leader for Soulseed, because like for your example of this afternoon, I know that you don't need to plan for this. You can just show up there, be present, and allow it to unfold. Nothing to fear. Life has a way. It's our curriculum, right? Your curriculum has been so rich, and then you can bring so much to your community. So I'm just so taken. And after knowing you for all these years, I really learned a lot about you today that I didn't know. So it's great. It's wonderful. So who else might have a question or comment today for Winn? I know we're a little past the hour, but we stay here as long as we feel like it, because we can.
Okay, nice.
Mm-hmm. You've got a quiet group this morning. You just filled us up.
I talk so much.
No, you just filled us up with so much to think. And, and what I would encourage people is, don't let the ego mind do the, compare and despair. It's like, oh, geez, my life's boring. I haven't done all of these things,
Oh,
compare
yeah,
and despair can get us in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, y'all have gotten the very surface version of things. But yeah, like Susan said, I mean, courage maybe, but definitely perseverance. I haven't walked an easy path, like it hasn't been easy. It's been hard in moments, very challenging. And so yeah, just to say like, it's not sunshine and rainbows and unicorns, but that's not the mystical realm either, really. Like everything exists in all the dimensions, and there's plenty of really tough stuff for us to, and how beautiful when we can take whatever level of wherever we're at and whatever we're facing and whatever is in front of us, and accept it and work to transmute it into something that helps us know ourselves. I mean, really, it's all just about, we each came in with a beautiful path with the potential to develop. Every being on the planet, every human on the planet has the potential to develop their God seed and to walk a path that can aid in that. It's just about like being in loving acceptance of what is in every now moment, really. So yeah, I honor each and every one of you so much, and I'm here if you have some deep thoughts or questions, or any time you might want some help with community issues or something, you can reach out to Susan for my email. I'm not the best at responding to email, but I do pretty good sometimes. But yeah, I just acknowledge each of you as beautiful spiritual warriors in your own realm, and doing the work that you came in to do. And thank you so much for your beautiful attention.
Thank you, Winn. We appreciate your generosity with sharing so much today. It just comes to mind to mention that you wrote this lovely book as well, because you like doing the hard things, because that's where the growth is. You wrote a lovely book around supporting your father through his transition to the next world. And I forget the name of the book, Winn. What is it?
It's called Death is a Miracle, a daughter's contemplative memoir of her father's transition.
Lovely. Yes.
And if I could do it now, it would be a little different from what it was 10 years ago. But yeah, it's still a sweet portrait of as much who my father was on many levels, and how his death was. It was a natural death, which is rare to have, like natural births, natural deaths. Kind of stopped allowing on certain levels. And so his death process, because of my work with ayahuasca and my other spiritual mystical stuff, we were able to midwife a natural death for him. So it's about that journey. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you,
Lovely.
Susan.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Winn.
Yeah.
And of course, if you feel like popping your email address in the chat, you're welcome to. And otherwise, I will certainly share it with anybody, because obviously Winn has a lot to share about building community. And I don't think many people have as much of experience as she does in community. So we will wind up for today. Thank you for being here. We'll have an open mic in 2 weeks on December the 8th. And so I hope you can join us. And we like to close with the mantra of unification. And so I'm going to share my screen so that you can see that as well. And often Michael reads it, but his voice is a little strained. So maybe I'm going to read it today. And so you can feel free to see that as well. The mantra of unification. The souls of all are one, and I am one with them. I seek to love, not hate. I seek to serve and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form and life and all events, and bring to light the love that underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight, let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate and outer cleavages be gone. Let love prevail, let all people love. Thank you. And so thank you so much for being here. Look forward to seeing you next time.